This week we're taking a look at HeartFit for Life, a medically supervised exercise program at Cubberley Community Center that's aimed at helping people with heart conditions reverse their symptoms. I'm joined by program director Robin Waddell and writer Chris Kenrick. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is great.
So I understand that HeartFit was one of the earliest cardiac therapy programs, you said community-based cardiac therapy programs in the nation, and now you guys are getting ready to celebrate your 50th anniversary. So tell me about this program, because before this article, I hadn't really even heard about it.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I feel very fortunate to be a part of this program for SOF. I've been there for 27 years, and it is a medically supervised exercise program with comprehensive education, and it is a program that started in 1970 as a community-based program at the YMCA in Palo Alto, and then in 1992 it moved over to the Jewish Community Center, and then everybody moved from the JCC to Cubberley Community Center, and so we've been there ever since, and we are a renter of Palo Alto City, and so we have now, we are now in our 50th year coming up, so we'll be celebrating that next April. And I have to say, I think it's just a jewel of a program that isn't known enough about in the community.
What is the difference between a medically supervised program and just say a regular, say, aerobics program or just going to the gym? Like what kind of things do you provide?
Yeah, so it's essentially the big difference is that it's medically supervised. So we have 2 or 3 nurses in each class along with the fitness instructor. So if you think about it, I mean, heart disease is the #1 killer for men and women. And after having a cardiac event, it's hard to know what you can do and what you can't, pushing your heart to its potential, what can it do? And so coming to a medically supervised program, you get an opportunity to really learn your self-monitoring skills, really get the foundation of, what can I do, not overdoing, not underdoing, and then really get the comprehensive education to help you minimize your future cardiovascular risk. It's not just exercise, it's looking at the whole picture. If you look at how we live these days, many people are sedentary and their cholesterol is up and we're getting more diabetes, and people are still smoking. And so this is a really wonderful program to look at all those lifestyle changes and help people make those changes and help them make behavioral changes.
And I know in reading your article, Chris, you said that many of the members had been there for years and years, and I actually think Crystal, who is your oldest member, 100 years old, she's been there for what, you said 11 years?
I think so, I think she started coming. Or when did she start coming? In the 90s, maybe?
Yeah, so she's been there 11 years, and so, and usually, I mean, I have a couple of guys that have been coming over 30 years. The average stay is 6 years, and so why do people keep coming? I kind of like to look at our program as wellness, rehab, and chronic disease management. And so if you find that, this program is helping you stay disciplined, you are getting ongoing education, it's helping you stay on track, as well as benefiting from the camaraderie. I mean, the social piece of the program is huge. The support among the staff as well as fellow members. I mean, it really makes a big difference. It helps people stay on track.
So you've seen a lot of people come in over the years because you've been there 20-some years.
Yeah.
And are they sort of hesitant at first? And then it seems like it's hard to get them in the door. And then once they're there, they have the learning curve. And then many people, seems like they stay a lot longer than they first expected.
Yeah, I can remember a 50-year-old coming in saying, I think I'm just going to stay here a month. And he was really kind of pushed to even do that. And he's been coming for the last 6 years. So, you never really know what keeps people coming back. I think, when we get into our 70s or 80s, we've already dealing with some chronic diseases and it's hard to get moving. And so, coming to the program, it gives you that class time to come to, right? And then you start meeting people, and then people are saying, where is, Crystal? I haven't seen her lately. So there's that essence of support that kind of keeps you coming back as well. And then we catch issues before they become bigger issues. We send many faxes to the doctor letting them know about symptoms or, maybe issues that they've been having, and hopefully preventing a rehospitalization. Because if you look at the statistics, cardiac rehab saves lives. It reduces your mortality rate by 25 to 31%, and it also reduces rehospitalization. And so I think that we are in we have a great opportunity to do that.
How was that studied? The conclusion that it reduces your mortality.
Oh, so
Yes.
it's there's been a number of, I think, studies overall that nationally that have been done. I have not actually done the study at our program, although that's something we're incorporating, being able to track outcomes more effectively in our database. So
they can look at people in an organized program versus people who are exercising on their own.
Yeah. So it's well documented in the presence of coronary artery disease. If you look at people who do it on their own versus doing a cardiac rehab, you can reduce your mortality rate by 25 to 31%. So it's compelling. In fact, if you look at the medicines that people take after they've had a cardiac event, doing cardiac rehab is just as effective as their medicines, if not more. So it really is a comprehensive effort.
So what would be the typical scenario for a referral that you would get? What types of
Because you're saying members have to be
issues
referred. People
arise.
can't just join. Doctors must refer people to the program.
Right,
Okay.
right. So typically you might have a cardiac event and then your doctor will tell you about the program and then they'll refer you to the program. We access your medical records.
But what kind of event would these be?
So heart attack, stent, bypass, congestive heart failure, heart transplant, people who might have an LVAD.
What?
LVAD, left ventricular assist device. So people who are in end-stage heart failure, they have an LVAD before they get their heart transplant. So those people benefit. And peripheral vascular disease, people just have a lot of risk factors. Diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, they're overweight, they're not exercising. Which leads me to the point of our program being a little bit different than your typical cardiac rehab program. Most rehab programs are hospital-based, and they do 36 sessions of ongoing telemetry. And so this is a type of program that Medicare will pay for.
Ongoing telemetry.
Which means you put a little monitor on someone's chest and then the nurse can see what their heart rhythm looks like while they're exercising. And back in the day, that was how cardiac rehab was done. And even though that lends value, it hasn't necessarily been shown to reduce morbidity or mortality by doing that.
So you're saying once you hit your target, then you were out of the program?
After the 36 sessions, then it was over?
Yeah.
So a typical cardiac rehab experience is 3 months, 36 sessions.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that's classic, phase 2 cardiac rehab. And then there's a phase 3 cardiac rehab where people can continue at rehab programs, but not all rehab programs because they don't always have the space. So we're set up to really, I think, deal with both short-term and long-term attendees. And we can look at their heart rhythm anytime we need to. We do a baseline rhythm strip. We can, if they have symptoms, we can look at their heart rhythm or even monitor it for 20 minutes while they're exercising. But we just don't do ongoing telemetry, which makes it a cheaper program. So the cost of our program is reasonably cheap. I know that's relative. It's $155 a month. But sometimes the copay of going to another rehab program can be similar to that. So,
and I know you said that it actually costs more than $155, so you actually are charging a little bit less. So where do you get the funds to do that?
Yeah, so we fundraise at the end of the year, and so we've been very fortunate to have very generous members in our program. And then we also get a couple of grants from Stanford and then the Palo Alto Medical Foundation Physicians Endowment Fund. And so we've been fortunate to get grants from them. And so that helps our subsidies for our scholarship program. So we subsidize about $20,000 to $25,000 a year in scholarships. And so we don't like to turn anybody away. And then we also have gotten grants through the years, Women's Club of Palo Alto and some other places.
Well, it seems like once people are in the program, they stay long-term. So I imagine you keep getting more and more members. So how much have you grown, and how do you accommodate all these new people?
Yeah, so it is growing, and we are actually adding more classes to our program, which is actually starting in October. So that will absorb a lot of the growth that we've been experiencing lately. If you look at cardiac rehab over the years, it's underutilized. Only 25 to 30% of all eligible patients take advantage of cardiac rehab. And this is a huge issue nationally. And the American Association of Cardiovascular Pulmonary Rehab is trying to get programs to be inventive or reinvent themselves to say, how can we capture more of these people that can benefit? So that's something we're always looking at in terms of
Are there other programs like HeartFit for Life in the area, or are you one of the...
Well, I think our program is unique in the way we're set up. We're a nonprofit, community-based, but there's a program at El Camino Hospital.
But at the hospital.
Yep, okay. Sequoia Hospital, Redwood City, Mills Peninsula, and then down at O'Connor Hospital.
But being community-based, it seems like it would make you more accessible to people. So they don't have to go fight with parking at a hospital. And it seems like if you're trying to spread cardiac rehabilitation as an activity for people with these risk factors, having it in the community.
I think there's that more social factor.
And it feels more like wellness too, I think, coming to a setting
you said you do one-on-one as well as like group classes, or how, like, when you go in, what's it like? Like, what's the class like?
Yeah, so what we do is once we get their medical records, we sit down and do an initial evaluation with each individual, and that takes about a couple hours. So it really gives us an opportunity to get to know this person, really understand their medical history, their risk factors, go through nutrition, exercise guidelines. So we basically put a plan together. And then when they start, we spend a lot of time with them, more one-on-one, I think, the first few sessions, and really getting them comfortable with the class hour. But the way the class hour is set up is it's a 7 to 8 minute group cardiovascular warm-up. And then they do 30 minutes of aerobic exercise, biking, walking, elliptical, treadmill, dance aerobics. We even do drumming in the 7 a.m. class. So we try to create a lot of variety. And then the last 20-minute segment, they do some weight resistive exercises, stretching, relaxation, and things that speak to balance. So the nurses are spending a lot of time with them, shepherding them through that class hour and helping them figure out how to check their pulse, how should they feel when they're exercising, correlating that pulse with their perceived exertion, understanding what the reportable symptoms should be. So, you really kind of get it dialed in after 2 or 3 months to say, okay, I know what I need to do here and how hard to work. Yeah.
Well, Chris, you were there. What did you see?
Well, it was quite a social environment.
Yeah, it seemed social.
There was a one part of the room where they had different blood pressure machines. I think there was a defibrillator there and perhaps some other equipment when the nurses were sitting down with individual people coming in. And then other people were just sort of wandering over to the machines and chatting with their neighbors and, pedaling away.
And when you went, they were celebrating Crystal's 100th birthday, who's been there, you said, 20 years?
When she arrived, everybody was happy to see her.
Yeah.
They were serving, they were not serving raw vegetables. They were served some red velvet cupcakes.
Okay, but disclaimer here, it's always heart healthy except for the special event. And there were very small portions.
Everybody seemed very happy with the celebration.
Yeah.
And then they went back to their... And next door to the gym was, to the room with equipment was a big gym where they were doing this, I guess, dance aerobics.
We do the group warm up in the gym, and then they do the dance aerobics, and then we have a bunch of chairs set up and mats, so that way, depending on your comfort level, if you're comfortable getting down on the mat, we have you do that. If you're not, we have you cool down in a chair. So they're still getting those weight resistive exercises, but just in a different way, if they're not comfortable getting down.
Now, you've been there, you said 27 years, so what kinds of changes have you seen? Is it pretty much been the same type of program, or have you seen it evolve, or?
Oh, geez, that's a good question.
I was just
so,
curious.
I have to say that we are constantly trying to innovate and think of different ways to educate and motivate. Because, when you have diabetes or when you have to make even just dietary changes in general, you're faced with this 3 times a day, and and so we're constantly trying to think of different ways to help you be motivated to say, let's have this really awesome heart healthy dish versus McDonald's.
Yeah.
We offer a lot of opportunity for education, and I think that that's probably the biggest change is trying to offer more variety.
You have a speaker series. You have a lot of education
We have
events.
a Meet the MD Expert lecture series. We have a women's retreat we do every year, which is tomorrow. And then we just started our first men's event called Guys and Grub, and that was over at Mitchell Park. And 40 guys showed up. And
they just ate food?
They had
Guys and Grub?
They had salmon, chicken, some really delicious salads for dinner. And it was all guys. We had Dr. Jeff Croak come over and give a talk. And I think it was really well received. So I think we're in line to do this again next year. So we do that, and then we have new member luncheons, and so it's an opportunity for new members to get together and talk about their situation, and then our dietitian will come in, Karen Ross, and she'll give an overview of heart healthy eating. We have every Wednesday we have a heart forum, so it's something educational related. So Karen will do a nutrition related class the first Wednesday of every month. And then we'll have different topics through in the middle of the month. And then the last Wednesday, we always do a balance class.
Do you have capacity for more patients if new people want to sign up?
Indeed.
Do you?
Indeed. Yes, we do. We will always have room. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's I think we're not limited in the sense of, how many people can come to the program. As I say, we just added some new classes. So I think that will be great.
And what do you hear from the spouses about how they feel about
I love that question. You know what? The spouses or even other family members say it gives them peace of mind that their loved one is coming to a program like this where they know that, they're going to get the support they need, and if there's an issue, there's help available. So
And didn't you say the program is also open to spouses?
So we have about 20 spouses that come to the program. So if they don't have a cardiac or pulmonary issue, they can come for a reduced rate. And that's cool too, because then that keeps both of them coming and they're supporting each other. So it's awesome.
Is there anything we didn't ask you about the program that you want people to know?
Well, I think that what's important is that it doesn't necessarily have to be an acute event that's happened in the last year. I think that there are people out there that have had a cardiac event in the past, a year or 2 or 3 or 5 years ago, and they're not a goal, right? Their blood pressure is not a goal. Maybe their cholesterol is not a goal. Maybe they're still carrying a few extra pounds. They're not exercising. This is a great opportunity, a great platform to help them get on track.
What if you just have diabetes? That's not an event, but what if you just have these risk factors? That would also qualify them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So primary prevention and secondary prevention, that's where it kind of separates our program out from other programs because we're not dependent on the insurance reimbursement. So primary prevention is huge, and it's all hard for us to engage in primary prevention. It's usually after that event, you're like, oh, I need to change something. I want to live.
So I don't even know the difference between primary prevention and secondary prevention. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so primary prevention would be that you have risk factors for heart disease, such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol level, diabetes, sedentary lifestyle, obesity, smoking. So those will be the main ones and stress. Okay. So the 3 that are causative is smoking, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure.
And then secondary prevention
that means you've already had a cardiac event and you want to prevent another one from happening.
And you accept both of these conditions.
Yeah. Great. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. I thought it was an interesting program and I wanted to know more. So, and thanks for joining us, Chris, and writing the story.
Awesome.
All right, well, I guess that wraps up this week's Behind the Headlines. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay up to date on Palo Alto news, go to paloaltoonline.com or follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.